What's going on, everybody? It's FREEDO here for your Overwatch. Big Daddy Jeff dropped a developer update today, letting us know a bunch of things for BlizzCon, but also a major balance patch that just went to the PTR. We'll cover that first. For those of you on PC, Windows Spatial Audio is now available, and this could be a major buff to those that use it, as the sound balancing in the game is very good and descriptive. If you configure this properly, it might be a buff to your gameplay. Next up, a general change made jump height consistent across hero roster. Because that's not specific, I don't know if this is something to be excited about or worried about, because it may tweak how momentum works, or make some heroes feel weird or perhaps better. More testing will have to be done to see the full ramifications of what this means. But on to more specific buffs. Mercy's Valkyrie ultimate cost reduced by 15%, and healing reverted back to 60 a second. The devs say Mercy's ultimate was charging a bit too slowly after her base healing was reduced. These changes should restore some of her ultimate strength and let it build up more quickly. Look out for this change. Don't sleep on it. I think this is a really big deal and could see pharah become a staple in the meta. I already think pharmacy is really strong, and now between healing more and charging Valk faster, you may be able to tempo it out more easily than you can Nano, because Nano works best when it's swinging a fight back using the burst of healing, but Valk is scariest when the whole team is getting damage amped, which is a lot easier to use offensively. I don't think we're going to see Ana dethroned anytime soon, but Mercy as a counterpick option is now a lot better. Reaper's Hellfire Shotgun spread randomization has been reduced by 50%, and his lifesteal buffed up to 30%, nearly a third. The devs say Reaper's specialty is fighting at very close range. The more consistent spread pattern and increase in healing from his passive will make him more capable of standing toe-to-toe with his enemies. I don't think this is the biggest of buffs, because the scariest damage right now is the burst range damage that's going to wreck Reaper, but he'll be a little bit more durable in close range fights. It's just that a few extra points of healing here or there I don't think makes or breaks his ability to stay alive. Usually it's like a stun or headshot that makes Reaper get wrecked, but something to look out for. I would say for the next few patches, though, Reaper's probably going to struggle with the prevalence of armor being in the game. Big Daddy Hog got a host of changes. Chain hook decreased the delay before pulling a hooked target from half a second to 0.3 seconds. Now greatly reduces the target's momentum upon being hooked, and cooldown now begins immediately instead of after the target has been pulled. These three changes makes hooked easier to hit, easier to follow up on, and is almost a pseudo cooldown change. This is kind of similar to what they did with the Winston bubble cooldown way back when, making for the downtime of hook to be closer to 7 or 6 seconds even after you would have wanted to use it anyway. So big buffs there. Changes to scrap gun, the spread pattern adjusted for both the primary and secondary fire, and the randomness has been reduced by 50%. Whole Hog also got some changes. Knockback maximum velocity increased by 25% from 8 to 10 meters a second, and his horizontal recoil has been decreased slightly, making Whole Hog a bit easier to control and even more impactful in the knockback department, which I don't know if is a good thing. Not sure that's what the ult needed. It already did fine in being able to knock things back. It just wasn't very potent, and knocking the enemies back to safety usually didn't help you, but I suppose setting up for knockoffs off the map will be a bit easier now that the targets are going to zip away after getting hit by the scrap gun ultimate. The devs say Roadhog is receiving several large changes to make his abilities more consistent. His chain hook had issues with breaking when enemy targets jumped or fell behind environment collision. It will now slow them down in the air more when the hook lands, and wait less time before it starts reeling them in. Since chain hook's cooldown now begins immediately upon use, it no longer varies based on Roadhog's distance to the hook target. We've also moved some of the projectiles closer to the center of the spread on his scrap gun, which gives him a more consistent damage output for its primary and alternate fire. Previously, there was a long-standing bug that caused close-range targets to fly much further than expected. After this bug was fixed, we still wanted to keep some of the knockback burst it provided, so we've increased the overall velocity cap to maintain some of that functionality. Okay, so the Whole Hog change might not be a whole lot different from what you expect. It sounds like they fixed a bug that would have nerfed some of the velocity, but then put the oomph back in so it's reliable now, and reliably gets that much of knockback. So probably about the same from what we've experienced in the past. Moving on now to Symmetra, her photon projector primary fire charges 20% faster. The devs say it's still difficult to use Symmetra's photon projector beam effectively, even after its range was increased, by speeding up the primary fire charge rate, it takes less time to ramp up to its full damage potential and will be a stronger option when she's presented with targets to charge up on. 20% is a significant amount, and I would expect this to be yet another thorn in the side of the GOATS comp. In those team fights where they start to drag out, if you can't go rush down the Symmetra and she can get her primary beam charged up, it's going to be one of the scariest anti-Rein, Zarya, Brigitte comp damage dealers in the entire game. I already think she's not too bad and probably pretty underrated against 3-3 comps as it is. It's just usually the team needs to support her quite a lot to let her get anywhere near the action to start charging that thing up. But if you can and give her the pocket, I mean, there's no other damage character that ramps up to that degree of damage as well as ammo, because even when the GOATS comp puts shields up in her way, well, she's just charging up her beam and getting ammo back for it. Don't sleep on this change. I think it's a really big deal. Sim is already fairly viable. It just is a bit of a niche playstyle right now, similar to what you might have said Doomfist was like a few patches ago as well. Well, that's it for the patch notes. On to the things that Daddy Jeff had described in the developer update. As far as content for BlizzCon, he announced that we're not getting a new map, which I have to say is fine in my book. We already have so many maps that it's not like we have a map veto or anything, so that we get to pick and choose. It's hard enough to practice all the maps as it is. But he does say that we are getting some amazing content for BlizzCon, which I'm just going to say confirms that it's going to be a new hero, among maybe other things as well. I hope this surprises. I'm not expecting social features yet, but it would be nice if they did come. And last but not least, most of this was covered in the developer update, but there is a replay functionality that's being beta tested in client for PC users to watch the World Cup semifinals from any perspective. This is amazing. I'm doing backflips for this because that means analysis videos are going to be so much easier to make once this starts getting produced for either the game or Overwatch League. Not to get ahead of ourselves yet, they're just testing this out as a way to spectate the Overwatch World Cup, but much like they did with the skins last year, I feel like this is something that is going to be a mainstream viewing experience for the Overwatch League, and eventually, as they said, something they're going to be developing for everyone to use for their in-game client as well. Really big deal. It's probably the most important thing for content creation and improving at the game, to be able to go into demos or replays to view what the heck actually happened from all perspectives. You guys don't know how many hours I've wasted of my life trying to piece together the context of a team fight to try to know why it resulted one way or another. And now all of that will soon come to an end, and it'll be much easier to make content on characters that don't get a lot of screen time, namely perspectives of tanks and supports who often don't get the camera put on them as much as you would like, especially if you're trying to learn those heroes. So, a lot of good things here to come. Massive meta-changing patch going on to the PTR. You're gonna have to let me know what you think about all of those changes in the comment section down below. Is the Mercy change what range damage characters needed to finally be able to counter shield compositions? Possibly. I think especially in combination with pharah or even the reworked soldier, damage amp to break shields will finally be a thing, I think, because of the other buffs that go through. So I can't wait to test these things out. If you're excited for it, please be sure to leave the video a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, because we do upload each and every day. So you're gonna want to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.